Hello and welcome to Com 712. It's Dr. Spades giving you the answers to SPSS homework assignment number 2. I want to go ahead and get started. You can see some of the answers are filled in here, but I'm going to go item by item so that you can see how you reach these correct answers. So for this last week, we had the correlation section here labeled, which is also a hint that I will talk about in just a moment. Let's start with number 1. Hypothesis 1 says that there will be a negative relationship between interaction involvement and anxiety. If you're using your cheat sheet that's on Blackboard, you notice that this word relationship is a keyword, and that is a keyword towards running a correlation. So this hint right here in the hypothesis lets you know that this is going to be a keyword towards the correlation. So remember to use your cheat sheet. I know a few of you used yours to find that out, and that is very helpful. There's also a couple other hints here. We're looking for a relationship between interaction involvement, a variable, and anxiety, another variable. So when we come down to part A, it says, what are the two independent variables? Because there is no dependent variable for a correlation, the independent variables become interaction involvement and anxiety. Remember, one isn't dependent on the other, they are both standing alone. So in this case, they are both independent variables, or IV. For part B, it asks, what is the appropriate test to answer this research question? The correct answer is, again, looking at the clue, the correlation. Specifically, the Pearson R. This is the most common type of correlation that is run in research, and so this is the one that we're focusing on. So that was the correct answer. For part C, we must go into SPSS and run the test in order to look and find the numbers. So let's go ahead into SPSS. And I have it pulled up here, similar to your view. This is the full Greek data set that we are using. So all of the information is entered, and it's just to show you the full data entry. But at the end of each variable, you can see a total label. Those are the variables, those are the columns that you want to choose when running each of the tests in the upcoming SPSS homework assignments. So keep that in mind. You're looking for the total score, not the raw data scores of each item. Instead, you're running them as a total. Those were done ahead of time for you so that you would not have to worry about calculating those, but instead they're already pre-entered. If we switch over to variable view, which we're in now, you can also see the same categories broken down into their different parts, again showing the totals, and also letting you know that the values have been entered for our categorical data. So when we come up to sex, type of Greek, and length of membership, all of those have been entered and assigned a value. So that's how we find that. And I remember some of you should know that from homework number 1. But we're going to run a correlation, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to start at analyze, that's step 1, and come down to correlate. Then we're going to move over to bivariate, which is the common choice, and it will bring up a selection box where you will make all of your necessary choices. The first thing that we want to do is select the correct variables. So we're looking for a relationship between interaction involvement and between anxiety. So we're going to select involvement total, bring it over, and also anxiety total, bring it over. When you choose the bivariate correlation, you can notice that there are already pre-selected options for you. You want to leave those as they are. Okay, so it's already selected that we're going to do a Pearson correlation, that we're running it as a two-tailed, and we're asking it to flag any significant correlations, meaning that an asterisk will show next to correlations that are significant. In order to get the means and standard deviations, we have to go to Options and check the box, Means and Standard Deviations. Click Continue. And now that we've made all of our selections, we are ready to run the test. Click OK. 2 boxes have been produced. One is going to give us our descriptives, which are the means and standard deviations for each variable, as well as our correlation table here. And so they mirror each other, so whichever one you want to read is fine. But here we have our correlation statistic, which is negative 0.277. Notice that there is an asterisk next to it, meaning that the correlation is significant. Also, we have our N, 75 participants, and our p-value, which is our significance value. Because it is 0.016, we know that that is less than 0.05, which means that it's, again, significant. So if we come over to it and answering part C, after we've conducted the test, we can see that there was a significant negative relationship between interaction involvement and anxiety. Our means and standard deviations are showing. Our correlation is also showing. And because our P is less than 0.05, we know that it is significant, meaning that there is a less than 95% chance, there is less than a 5% chance that we are incorrect, and we can guarantee at a 95% level that we are correct. That's what the p-value stands for. So does this support or not support the hypothesis? It supports it. And although the relationship is a little bit weak at a negative 0.277, it is still a significant relationship, meaning that maybe if we increased our sample size or had more people, we would probably find a higher level, a higher relationship, stronger number on that relationship. With number 2, we get a second chance to practice with a new hypothesis. Number 2 says, there will be a significant relationship between interaction involvement and educational satisfaction. This time, we're going to run which? Because of our keyword here, we're going to run a correlation. Okay, that relationship becomes the keyword. And again, our 2 variables are interaction involvement and educational satisfaction. Those are the variables that we're interested in finding the relationship between. Because of that, we're going to again run a correlation, specifically the Pearson R. And now we will need to go to SPSS to run and find the data. We're back in SPSS, and we're going to run our new correlation with new variables. So we go back to Analyze, down to Correlate, and over to Bivariate. Notice that we have our old choices still there from the last test that we ran. So what we can do is we can choose Reset. That will clear everything out, and we will have to select our new variables and our new options. So we're looking for a relationship between interaction involvement. So we'll choose the total variable, bring it over, and educational satisfaction. Choose and bring it over. Our default selections are already selected for us, so now we go to Options and check the box to receive our means and standard deviations. Click Continue. All of our selections are complete, so now we're ready to run the correlation. Click OK. Both our descriptive statistics have been produced, showing our means and standard deviations for both variables, as well as our correlation table showing a negative 0.156 correlation between those 2 variables, and our significance, our p-value, is a 0.182. So there's 2 things that we see here. Also, there's no asterisk. So we know that our correlation is negative, and it's also not significant. There's no asterisk, and our p-value here is greater than 0.05. So now we go back to our assignment and we begin to write it. So our results say that there was not a significant relationship between interaction and involvement and educational satisfaction. Our means and standard deviations are entered. Our correlation statistic is showing negative 0.156. And because our p-value was greater than 0.05, we know that we have failed to support our hypothesis. We have failed to support our prediction, meaning that we did not find the relationship that we were expecting to find. That is how you complete SPSS homework number 2. We'll see you next week when we're looking at completing SPSS homework number 3, focusing on independent samples t-test. See you next week.